Ruby absolutely knew the deal about Jodi before she got into the situation with her. Shari Franke is spilling all the tea in her book about her family. We're going to talk about some of it in today's video. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back there. I'm right here. The boys are asleep, and so is everybody else. So if you've been following me or whatever, you probably heard from, it depends on when you see these videos or whatever, but I'm recording early morning because the dogs get so all over the place during the daytime. So I've got my little morning swollen face going on, although it is kind of coming down a little bit. I gotta put my face on, So, but everybody's asleep and we kind of got that quiet, like little voice going, whatever. So, but what I wanted to do today was we'll drink some coffee with y'all, but also talk about Shari Franke's book. Now, we've been doing this for our members book club and talking about it. It's like behind the scenes, we've been talking about this and been posting videos and whatnot. But now what I want to do, because so many people are talking about this, is come to like the main channel with some of the aspects of the book that are really sticking out to me. These are going to be very casual, like conversation type thing. So first things first, 100% spoiler alert. If you have not read the book at this point, like I'm going to talk about some key elements in it. I don't know how many I'll do of these, but like, you know, whatever, just how many ever really stick out to me. I'm going to talk about one concept, okay, as I've gone through the book and read or whatever. At this stage in the game, I'm a little more than halfway through the book. So for this video, what I want to talk about is the dynamic, like I said in the opening, where a surprise to me was how much evidence Ruby knew of Jodi, but still willingly went into the situation with her. So let me do a very quick little overview for people who are not familiar with this case, okay? So what we're talking about is The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom. This is by Shari Franke. Shari Franke is the eldest daughter of Ruby Franke, Kevin Franke. Ruby Franke was the host. She's a former YouTube personality, if you will. She was known for 8 Passengers, and that is a family vlog channel. So it's Ruby and Kevin, husband, wife, and their 6 kids, hence the name 8 Passengers. That's the beginning of it, right? Over here you have Jodi Hildebrandt, who was a therapist with a company called Connections, and it was like very big in like the LDS church and whatnot, and you know, she was very well known in this, you know, I can change anybody and this, that, and the other, made a lot of money from it, had these very expensive classes, this, that, and the other. Well, the two worlds collide eventually, and horrific crimes are committed against Ruby's children and other people as well, you know, but it took this scenario to expose it. So currently Jodi and Ruby are in prison for their crimes. We're waiting to find out exactly how long they're going to be there. After what I've read in the book, personal opinion, they don't need to see the light of day. Okay, it's that bad, the things that they did. We thought, if you watch the case, you already know it was horrible, the things what you saw, it's worse. I know. The fact that we're not talking about children who have lost their lives at their hands, because that was next. Especially what I've read so far, that was next, okay? So that's the nuts and bolts of it, okay? The case is so deep, it's, you know, I've covered it before, whatever. We're not talking about that level of it here. We're talking about this book here. And specifically what I want to talk about now is the dynamic of how much Ruby Franke was warned by the one and only her daughter, Shari, with receipts about who Jodi Hildebrandt was, and she still willingly went through with it. I don't even have notes. This is literally just going to be me talking here, okay? If you've been reading this or coming, I'm dying to hear what you have to say, okay? So please drop it in the comment section. Again, at a certain juncture in their lives, and this is kind of brought on by Shari's brother Chad. He's kind of honestly just a typical kid, right? You know, just, you know, misbehaving, doing this and that. Remember, these kids are growing up in an environment where everything is recorded, everything is content. Their mother is going from nobody to a channel with 2 million, where every single thing is mined for content. Okay, so that's there. So when Chad starts acting out like on these vacations and, you know, branded Universal trips and stuff like this, you know, they're like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And then hence Jodi's name is brought forth. it's Jodi's going to come in. She's going to be this wonderful person. Well, Shari, and at this point, remember, I mean, Shari's the child in the situation as far as like to Ruby and Kevin. Shari's like, well, let me do my research on this therapist that's going to come. Jodi Hildebrand. She starts researching her. It is not good. Okay. It's not good at all. She's finding this evidence of Jodi's license, getting in trouble for, making stuff up about this husband over here and spreading lies about this man over here. And, this guy's life was destroyed. She got him thrown out of college and work and this, and it destroyed his marriage and this, that, and the other. And she's seen the pattern. She's seen the evidence. She's seen the receipts of Jodi coming into families and destroying them, right? And doing what she does of like separating the husband, isolating the woman, doing this and that. We're going to get into that conversation right there for another video, okay? Shari goes to her mother and is like, girl, okay, yeah, we need to talk, okay? Now, keep in mind the backdrop to the relationship between Shari and Ruby. Number one, I don't know if it was always this way, but Shari refers to Kevin and Ruby as Kevin and Ruby, not mom and dad. The relationship she describes of Ruby, it's like, to me, to be honest, like with that being your mother, it would be like you were living in a house with a stranger, with a authoritarian stranger. There is no warmth, there is no love, and if there is, it feels very manufactured for the camera or very targeted. Like it's gross, okay? There's no other better way to describe it. It's icky. It feels cold. It feels scary. So this is not a normal relationship where you can go and be like, this is, whatever, even though Shari does. So Ruby does not view Shari as an equal. And Shari will say at one point, you know what? I finally realized that until I had a husband and a child on my hip and one on the way kind of a thing, Ruby would never look at me as her equal. That was Ruby's number one thing in life, honestly, before YouTube, it sounds like, was to get married and be a mother and do all that. Fine, dandy, great. But it's like she looked down on people like Shari and whatnot and would constantly put her down. That's just a quick backdrop so you understand when Shari's going to her mom with all these receipts of like, Mom, Jodi's coming in, but you need to look at this. Ruby doesn't want to hear it. Nope. And it's almost like a gaslight. Why are you trying to sabotage our family, Shari? That's the vibe you get. So she's warning her. Well, of course, Jodi comes in. Well, you do the math on that, right? We see where it went. And so as this is going on, there's constantly different levels of this taking place, of the initial coming in, seeing the therapy with her and whatnot. Shari immediately got a horrible vibe off of Jodi. And Shari's literally like, you could feel like this, it's a vortex, like void. And she brought up a good point where she was like, Jodi's supposed to be this therapist and this and that, but her energy, the space she occupies, what it feels like when she walks in the room is dark, it's cold, it's stern, there's no warmth, there's no this or that. And this is like instant first impressions. Ruby overlooks this completely, right? Completely overlooks this, doesn't see it, isn't, paying attention, whatever. So here you have Shari, who has brought forth the number one, the receipts. Then secondary, this level of, okay, this is a person who has a really bad energy. Then as things progress too, and again, I'm more than halfway through, but just the bit we've heard so far, right? As families start seeing things that Jodi is doing, which is usually a money hungry grab thing, like you need to go do this if you want to do that. Remember, Shari had this company connections. So she'll have like lead, family therapists or things like this. So people working under her and doing these classes and all this it's almost, honestly, it feels like a pyramid scheme or whatever. Well, she's also, milking these people for money too. So she does a couple of things where a lot of the families that were working and pivoted around her were like, nope, we draw the line. This is a money hungry grab. We're done. Thank you. Next. Okay. Ruby more or less views this as a scenario of, I can now get closer to her. Everyone's out, the competition's gone. And these are the three main points I wanted to bring up in the relation of Ruby knew everything that was there. These huge red flags, and even Shari refers to it at one point as like going down the rabbit hole that was lined with red flags. Like that's how obvious the Jodi situation was. So take those just a few examples I gave you. And again, if you follow the case, then fast forward to the sentencing where Ruby spoke. And she kind of pivoted her whole thing to blame Jodi and Jodi's manipulation. And I allowed, I was misled and I allowed basically the devil into my home, right? Which agreed, okay. When I was following the case, and I've talked to some of you about this already, I was under the impression of, 100% she, allowed whatever. Okay, so I guess Jodi got in there and, she was like a, what do you call it? Like the Trojan horse or the wolf in sheep's clothing, where she found her way in and then slowly, manipulated and gaslit the situation, which she did do that. But there wasn't any manipulating my way in. She came in wearing all this out there for everyone to see. Ruby was warned multiple times, multiple signs, multiple ways. So it wasn't like she was, and this is the better way to say it, she wasn't blindsided like she tried to make it sound, okay? Nor was Kevin, okay? That's a whole other video we'll get into right there too. Because, he just kind of like took the back seat and let Ruby do whatever. So there was no blindsiding with this. In this scenario, the person who should have been the most responsible and did the due diligence is Ruby before allowing this person into their home. Her daughter did instead, and warned her about this with the proper receipts. So it's not like I'm just being a sullen, whatever teenager. She came with the proper documentation, and still Ruby was like, no, we're still going to do this. We see where it got us, right? Or them, I should say. That part right there literally made me want to jump through the screen, even though I don't know why I'm seeing the screen, because I'm listening to an Audible. Maybe that's why I have my phone. I don't know. It rekindled the absolute rage that Ruby and Jodi cause in me, right? Because I'm sitting here and I just felt like, wait, so she knew how bad this was from the get-go? She knew all the stuff that Jodi had done to other people? She knew this, she knew that, she knew like all the, and she still did this? And her own daughter, who should be not worried about stuff like this, is the one that did the research properly and came to her with this, and she still chose to ignore it? Mind-boggling, okay? Absolutely mind-boggling. So that part really hit home to me to see that this is how laser-focused Ruby was on, and I don't know if you want to call it the narcissistic goal of like, I'm going to combine forces with, connections and be this big thing and blah, 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 blah. I do really think that Ruby and Jodi combined, they wanted to be the next coming, wanted their teachings, their stuff to be biblical. They literally were talking about going down the Lori Vallow roll. Also, side note, she has, I don't know if the chapter's dedicated to it, Visions of Glory is in there. Ruby and Lori, this was like their Bible, she said. They were obsessed with this book. And she talks about it. So if you've been following me reading that part alone, I might go back and read that and do a separate video on that, because it literally was like, this is why we're reading this book. Okay, so now if you're following my videos on there, I'll do another one soon, but Lord, if you already know, like, it's rough, y'all. Thank you for getting through that book with me. We're all halfway through. That's why we're reading it. It's like trying to figure out like, what is chokehold. So people like Lori Vallow, Ruby, Jodi, that is like legit to them, okay? And they want to recreate this, right? And so, but Shari has such a good head on her shoulder. She sees the absurdity in this. It's interesting, and thank God she was there for that, for those siblings. It gives me goosebumps. There's no telling where this would be had that child not gotten out of Jodi's house and run to the neighbors. Again, goosebumps galore. There's no telling. Dead bodies for sure, minimum. It's just how many. That's how bad off this was. So anyways, I can keep going on. If you haven't read this book, I'm not trying to sponsor this. It's not a brand thing. Find a way. Go to your library, whatever you have to do. This is a must read on so many levels. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section. Dying to talk, okay? Dying to talk about this. So that's it. I do appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. If you could drop some sofas off in the comment section for myself, Rosco and Spirit, the boys who are sleeping, so we'll all have a place to hang out, talk about this case, all these other things we talk about here at Sofa Squad, okay? And until we meander our way down there to do that, we'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.